All right, boys, we are back. We have Premier League predictions for match week 18. Before we get started with the match week 17 recap, boys, I just wanted to say I appreciate everybody who's been watching the videos, who's been liking the videos, commenting their own predictions below. We are so close to the end of the year subscriber goal. I had 7,000 in mind. I think we're at like 6,930 right now or something. So really appreciate everybody who's been coming out, showing some love to the channel. It's been really appreciated, and just make sure you hit that like button to push it out into the YouTube algorithm for everyone else to see. Let's get to the match week 17 recap. All right, so for the match week 17 recap, I thought I did pretty good. We had 3 correct scores. We'll get into that in a little bit. I will get to my worst predictions first. Brighton, Sunderland, I had 2-1 for Brighton. It ends 0-0. It's one of those things again where I still cannot fade Sunderland. I really convinced myself in this prediction that I thought Sunderland would not get the result, and I mean, they didn't just get the result, they did not allow Brighton to score at home, which I think is very impressive. So very good result for Sunderland there. Terrible prediction for me. Wolves, Brentford. I feel like this one could have happened still. Like, I know Wolves just got absolutely thumped on the head 2-0 here, and I had 2-2, so I got nothing correct in this match. But it's one of those things where I just expected a little bit more from Wolves. I didn't think Brentford at their odds for the 1x2. I guess the books just allowed everyone to get Brentford to win at free odds there, so I'm okay with still predicting the 2-2. I think between the two, I should have put more respect on Sunderland, but Wolves, Brentford, I'm okay with predicting 2-2 there. Just a terrible result in my opinion, just for what I predicted. Newcastle, Chelsea was a solid one. I had 1-1 predicted 2-2. I don't think I'm ever going to go that high for an early morning match. I feel like the 7:30 a.m., 7:30 at least on the East Coast of the U.S., I feel like those matches are normally low scoring, so I kind of felt the idea of a draw there. I didn't think it'd be a 2-2 draw, so getting 2 out of 3 right over there was okay. Bournemouth, Burnley, I had 2-0 predicted. It was 1-1. I consider this one a bad prediction. I got 1 out of 3 on the markets right, but it was just the under 2.5 was decent, but it was a 1-1 draw there. Man City, West Ham, I had 3-0 predicted. It ended 3-0 on the dot. One of those things where I always tell people I like to try to find those bigger favorites, stay one underneath the total. Don't give the other team a goal unless the both teams to score odds kind of implied. So that one was a perfect one. 3 for 3 there. Tottenham and Liverpool, I had 2-1 for Tottenham. And if anybody remembers watching the video, I tried to make that prediction with the mindset of I was going against what I wanted to do. I wanted to pick Liverpool to win, but I feel like I was just getting on the wrong side of Tottenham, and I thought this would be one of those ones where I predict Liverpool to win, Tottenham will get a result. Honestly, the red card kind of ruined everything. I had the 2-1 idea right, which was over 2.5. Both teams to score was correct, but the team that won I had incorrect. So we get 2 out of 3 on the markets there. Everton, Arsenal, not much to say about this one. 1-0 to Arsenal is exactly what I thought was going to happen, and I didn't get to watch the match, but just thinking about the match, that is exactly how I planned on it to go. So 1-0 Arsenal for the second correct score of the match week. Leeds, Crystal Palace, although it was not a straight 0 for 3, this was a very, very bad prediction. It's just very shocking to me that Crystal Palace rested or rotated a lot of players on their Thursday Conference League match to just allow them to only get thumped on the head 4-1 by Leeds, and they still have 2 more Conference League fixtures added to their schedule. So I don't really know if this was worth it or not, but I thought it'd be a tighter match. I thought it'd be a lot more low scoring, but 4-1 to Leeds is actually crazy against Crystal Palace, so shout out to Leeds there. Aston Villa versus Manchester United. This was a prediction where as I ended the video and I was uploading, I really regretted it. There's not much you can do once I make the prediction. I had a feeling predicting a high scoring draw here was kind of the wrong move. I felt like it should have been a 1-1 or 2-2 in my head. 3-3 was absolutely crazy. Also, I think I should have just put more respect on Aston Villa at home. So a 2-1 win for Aston Villa was great. I feel like it was there for the taking. I could have predicted that one right on the dot, but I went too spicy with a 3-3 draw. Fulham versus Nottingham Forest was the last match of match week 17, and I thought I did great, right? 1-0 for Fulham. I feel like getting a match where it's just 1-0 because you're going against the both teams to score, you're going against the over-under. You know how people like to usually predict these matches for higher scoring games and both teams to score. So was really happy to get Fulham Nottingham Forest 1-0 on the dot. I'd give myself an 8.5 on this match week out of 10 on how I did prediction wise. Getting 3 correct scores is very, very nice. I don't know how often I'll get more than 3 correct scores right. We're seeing a lot of green here on the match week 17 recap, so I'm happy about that. And let's get to match week 18. So the first match we have in match week 18 is Manchester United and Newcastle. We are seeing the odds as 2.5 for Manchester United win, 2.6 for Newcastle, and 3.6 on the draw. I think the odds are pretty straightforward. I'd be very interested to see how they move right before kickoff, because if Manchester United drops to, let's say, 2.2, maybe 2.1, I think I would lean Manchester United in this match. But with the odds the way they are, I'm kind of feeling something a bit low scoring depending on what the other odds are. Both teams to score is 1.53, should be pretty straightforward. Both teams should score in this match. And then we see the total around 2.53, and this is is interesting because this is what really helped me make my prediction before even going to the forum. When I saw both teams to score at 1.53, but over under 2.5 is only 1.62, they're basically telling me, or I read the match as they know both teams are scoring, but they're really like they're favoring a third goal, but they're not really certain about the third goal. So we check the forum here to see if anything's crazy, and we see a bunch of both teams to score in Manchester United's last matches. We see a bunch of both teams to score in Newcastle's last matches. The only Sunderland one was the one that didn't happen there. And then I think the recent head-to-head maybe a little bit for me out of touch. I don't know if I really want to use these recent head-to-heads here. We do see some higher scoring matches. We do see Newcastle, beating United 4-1, Newcastle beating them 2-0, United winning at home 3-2. There was a couple of ways I wanted to go about this, but I think I'm just going to stick with my initial first instincts, which was Manchester United and Newcastle to be a 1-1 draw. Next match we have here is Nottingham Forest and Manchester City. We see Manchester City at 1.57 on the 1x2, which is a bit higher than you'd expect from Manchester City. I feel like this is more about respect towards Nottingham Forest playing at home here. Both teams to score is 1.7, which is interesting, right? Because if they're not totally certain City win at 1.57, but they're still kind of saying, hey, both teams could score, but it's not super likely, right? It's not in the 1.5, 1.6 range. The over-under sits at about 3. Recent form, we have Nottingham Forest at home. We've been pretty decent. A lot of wins here to nil even. They have 2 wins, right? They beat Tottenham to nil, and they beat Malmo to nil. Now, I'll be honest, Malmo to nil is not too much of my concern. I'm not going to, really use that to say anything could happen in the City game. We check City away from home. Pretty straightforward. A good amount of wins here. Their only loss was in Newcastle away. Other than that, nothing that sticks out to me that we need to, pay attention to. Recent, when they played head-to-head, City win. We have a Nottingham Forest win at home. We have a City win 3-0, another City win, and then obviously City has probably dominated Nottingham Forest, as we could only imagine. With all these things, I've kind of thought about if I wanted to just give a City win to nil, a low-scoring City win to nil, but I went a little bit spicier on this one in terms of the goals scored in this match. So for Nottingham Forest and Manchester City, I went with a 3-1 Manchester City win. Arsenal-Brighton is our next match here. We have Arsenal sitting at 1.4, Brighton is sitting at 7.5, and the draw at 4.5. The over-under sits at about 2.5 at 1.67. Again, I think we've seen that number a couple times now, 2.5 as the goal total, with around 1.6 to 1.7 as the odds there. Both teams to score sits at 1.91, which is very, very standard, right, for an Arsenal match. For a Brighton match, not so much, but for an Arsenal match, 1.91 is usually what they expect to be the both team to score market. We're just not expecting Arsenal to be conceding goals in this match, right? So Arsenal at home, very straightforward. They have done pretty well versus Brighton in the past too, right? They've beaten Brighton 2-0. We have a 1-1 draw, another 2-0 win, a 3-0 win for Brighton in 2023, and another 3-1 win for Brighton in the EFL in 2022. Not too much I want to, grab away from those matches. There wasn't a lot for me to think about in this match. I really was back and forth on 2-0 Arsenal or 2-1 Arsenal. I kind of decided to go a little bit spicy because I think Arsenal conceding a goal at home would be a spicy type of result here, but the actual result in terms of the 1x2 I think will be pretty straightforward. So for Arsenal and Brighton, I'm going to go with a 2-1 win for Arsenal. Next, we have Brentford and Bournemouth, and these two teams have been a little bit annoying to me recently. Like, I have had some correct scores on them, but it seems like I either have a correct score or I completely get the thing wrong with these two teams, so we'll see how this one goes. The odds for Brentford are 2.25. The odds for Bournemouth are 3. I think this is just a situation of the home team being slightly favored because they're at home. Both teams to score is at 1.57, so that's pretty low, and the over-under sits right at about maybe 2.75, maybe to 3. We'll probably see. I'm curious. I have a feeling it'll probably close as a higher scoring match here. So the head-to-head for Brentford is like this. We have 1 win in their last 5, couple of BTTS no's, couple of both teams to score, and that's kind of what I mean, right? We have a couple of matches here that are both teams to score and no, and then we have one match that is BTTS yes, which is Brentford and Leeds with that 1-1 draw. And then kind of the same with Bournemouth here, right? We have a both team to score with Sunderland, both teams to score with United with 4 and 4 goals. Like, I mean, come on. Is there anything more crazy than seeing a 0-0 than a 4-4 back-to-back matches? So Bournemouth are extremely volatile here, and I just realized the prediction that I had going for this match is going to be kind of crazy given what Bournemouth's form is, but now I don't really want to change it. My mind's already pretty much made up. If Brentford want to get the result in this match, like a win, props to them, shout out to them in advance, but I think for Brentford and Bournemouth, the way I kind of figured this match was going, I went with a high-scoring 2-2 draw for this match, and I don't really have great reasoning for this. This is more of a gut feeling than anything. But thinking about it again, I really don't know if I should have really predicted a 2-2 draw, considering it would be Bournemouth's 4th straight draw, and not just their 4th straight draw, but a 4th draw in a row without it being one of their old draws, right? So it'd be a 4th new type of draw being 2-2, right? They have already had a 0-0, they've already had a 4-4, they've already had a 1-1, and now they're about to have a 2-2. It is what it is. I'm sticking with it. Brentford, Bournemouth, 2-2. Next, we have Burnley and Everton. The odds here are 1.95 for Everton. Burnley's 4.1, and the draw is 3.4. The over-under sits at about 2.25, probably going to stay around there. I would imagine maybe even gets to like maybe a 1.7 on the 2 line. Both teams to score sits at 1.95. Burnley at home has been bad. Burnley just in general have been bad. They are coming off of a 1-1 draw versus Bournemouth, which I think is pretty good for them. Everton away from home, they have some good results, some bad results, some meh results. I mean, nothing too surprising here about Everton. They kind of just go back and forth depending on who they're playing and where they're playing. Recently, we have seen an Everton 1-0 win, an Everton 2-0 win. This was actually a quick prediction for me. There wasn't much I thought about. I really just saw the odds and I told myself, I don't think both teams are scoring in this match. I think it should be a very, very tight match, and I think Everton should win. The only concern I have is that Everton being 1.95 is pretty high. I kind of thought Everton would be 1.8, maybe 1.85. So not super far off, but a little higher than I'd like. So I'd like people to probably know that going into it. So I will be predicting Everton to win this match 2-0, but I do want people to really realize here that although I'm kind of feeling it, I still think a little bit of respect needs to be put on Burnley at home. You never know what could happen, right, with a team battling relegation at home, but I'm going to stick with a 2-0 Everton win for this. Next, we have Liverpool and Wolves. The odds for Liverpool are 1.22, which is unsurprising. Both teams to score is 1.95, which is a little bit surprising. I thought they could have maybe saw Wolves getting a goal here in Anfield, but I mean, 1.95 is basically telling us like, no, that's not the case. And then the over-under is right at about 3.5 goals. So they're expecting a straight slaughter here. I mean, there's no other way to put it. They're expecting Liverpool to not only get the win, but to do it in style as well. And I think we can probably expect that. They have not had one of those marquee results at home since, I mean, have they had one all year where you were like, I mean, since the first match week, right? When they beat Bournemouth 4-2, that was one of those results where we were like, damn, like that's a very good Liverpool result at home. But since then, it's been all mid. And I think this is the match for me where I decided to back Liverpool in the sense of a bigger, result here. So for Liverpool and Wolves, I'm going to go with a 3-0 Liverpool win. The biggest thing I was thinking about here was, do I stay closer to the total? Do I give Wolves a goal? I decided I would stay kind of close to the total, but I would not give Wolves a goal. So 3-0 to Liverpool in Anfield here. Next, we have West Ham and Fulham. The odds for West Ham are 2.7. Odds for Fulham are 2.55, and the draw is 3.4. Both teams to score is 1.62, and the over-under sits right at about 2.75. So somewhere between 2.5 and 3 is what they're feeling for goals in this match. West Ham at home, we have what? 2 straight L's with a really tough one against Aston Villa. They had a chance to make that one 3-3, but they lose at home to Aston Villa there. Fulham away from home, no draws, just either wins or losses in this match. West Ham, same thing at home, right? No draws, but wins or loss in this match. When they've played recently, we've seen a 3-2 West Ham win, a 1-1 draw, a 2-0 Fulham win, a 5-0 Fulham win, and a 1-0 West Ham win. So they have kind of traded results back and forth depending on who's been in better form when they face each other. Looking at the table here, you got to imagine this is a very, very, very big game for West Ham to not only get a result, but hopefully push for the win. I just really don't see that happening here. As much as I do think West Ham could pull off the result here, they could pull off the win here, I think I'm going to stick with something that has not happened in West Ham's recent home results or Fulham's recent away results, which is going for a West Ham Fulham 1-1 draw. Our next match is Chelsea versus Aston Villa. The odds for Chelsea are 1.83. The odds for Aston Villa are 3.9, and the odds for a draw are 3.8. Nothing that sticks out to me other than maybe Chelsea being a little bit lower than I would have thought. I could have seen them at maybe like a 2.1, maybe a 2.2, but the books having them below 2 odd, I wouldn't call it sus, but I would call it, you know, something to think about at least, right? More than you would think. Like Chelsea at home, they've been good, but it's more about Aston Villa's form, right? You would think with a team like this, right? I mean, just look at how this looks. All these wins here for Aston Villa, and this isn't even that away from home. This is just in general how many times they've won, and you're telling me you're giving Chelsea 1.83 to win this match? It's a little bit surprising when you think about it like that, right? What could be the reason? I know people are probably missing players, but all that's factored in, right? Everyone needs to know that the books whenever they price lines, all the missing players, all the uncertainty, it's all baked in. It's a very, very important thing to think about, but it's all baked into the line here. So you might be thinking to yourself, but Forensic, Aston Villa is going to be missing blah, 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 because of blah, blah, blah. Like, it just happens, right? That's just how it is. The books know that even before me and you know that. So with the both teams, the score line being 1.67 and the over-under sitting at about 2.5, maybe gets closer to 2.75. I have a kind of a shocking result here, so it kind of does go into my, it does kind of feed into my idea of Chelsea really should not be that low of odds given Aston Villa's form. So for Chelsea and Aston Villa, I'm going to go with a 2-0 Chelsea win. Sunderland versus Leeds is our next match in match week 18. We look at the odds and we see Sunderland at 2.5, Leeds at 2.88, the draw at 3.1, the over under sets at about 2.5, not even 2.5, but 2.25. We are expecting a very low scoring, tight match here between these two teams. And the first thing I thought about was going with a 0-0 draw. And then I thought to myself, you know what? I need to just go back to what has helped me in the past in these predictions, which is let's just back Sunderland, right? Let's just back Sunderland. Could you really convince yourself that Leeds is going to go into Sunderland and win the match? I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Not given how good Sunderland's played at home. If anything, a draw is way, way, way more likely than Leeds getting any type of result in this match, in my opinion, in terms of a win. So for Sunderland and Leeds, I don't want to bore anybody with too much analysis on the form here because we know what Sunderland's been like. We know how Leeds has operated away so far. So for Sunderland and Leeds, I kept it simple. I'm backing Sunderland. If they get the win here, not the 1-0. I predicted a 1-0 win for Sunderland and Leeds, but if they just get the win here, shout out to them because they are an absolute wagon right now on results. So I'm going to go with Sunderland 1-0 to beat Leeds, but I just got to say in advance, no matter how they win this match, if they win like a 4-2 or a 4-3 type of match here, shout out to them because they have been putting on a hell of a Premier League campaign so far. 1-0 to Sunderland. The last match of match week 18 brings us to Crystal Palace and Tottenham, and I'll be honest, when I first looked at this match, I was like, this is a hard one. Just so many different ideas, so much recency bias in my brain. Did not know exactly how I wanted to approach this prediction, so I looked at the odds. Obviously, I saw 2.15 for Palace, which looked normal. Tottenham, I don't think Tottenham's getting disrespected here. I feel like this is a very fair line for all three 1x2 markets. The over-under sits about 2.5, which is pretty obvious in a Crystal Palace match. They're usually never going to have high goal totals. Both teams' score sits at 1.75, so my brain was moving in all different directions here. I was first thinking, do I want to try to go crazy on, a Tottenham result here, a Tottenham win, a high-scoring draw? And I told myself no for all those things. Crystal Palace's home form has been pretty bad lately, but, we have some Conference League matches that are kind of, congesting their schedule. Some would say Palace did not look good in that 3-0 loss to City. They did not look good in that 2-1 loss to United. Tottenham have just been horrendous away from home. So if this is the type of match they wanted to, find a win against Crystal Palace, I'd be very impressed by it. So this one, I tried to stick with form more, but I tried to stick with what I thought would happen. And what I think will happen will be a Crystal Palace 2-1 win over Tottenham. I almost tried to go against it again and back a Tottenham draw, but I'm just, let me just see Tottenham prove me wrong when I go against them for a few times in a row before I start backing them, in a regular sense. So Crystal Palace, Tottenham, I'm going with a 2-1 Crystal Palace win. All right, boys, that wraps up match week 18 predictions. I appreciate you guys watching up until this point in the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Let me know in the comment section what predictions you agree with, which ones you disagree with, and which predictions you have of your own. Hope everybody has a great rest of their week. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrates it. I appreciate you guys, and I will see you on the next one.